Hi, and welcome to another section in the Flutter Learn Learning course. So far, we have learned about what Flutter is, its widgets, and the role that they play in app creation. We have studied widgets like text, center, padding, and app bar. Now, we shall take a look into some of the most commonly used widgets in Flutter one by one in this course. For this video, we shall focus on containers. So a container is a convenience widget that combines common painting, positioning, and sizing widgets. To understand it better, we can say that a container widget is used to contain a child widget with the ability to apply some styling properties. That being said, it is important to know that if the container widget has no child widget in it, then it shall automatically fill the area of the screen. Otherwise, if there is a child, it will wrap to the height and width of the given child element. Now, one important point is that a container widget should not render directly without any parent widget. Although you can use a center widget, a padding widget, say a column or a row widget, or a scaffold widget as a parent widget for a container. But you have to make sure that a container widget should not render directly without any parent widget. Now we shall jump right into the code and take a look at how containers work. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, we have a scaffold which is pre-made with an app bar on it. Now we will build a container in the remaining body parameter of the scaffold. So to do that, we will type body and we will pass the container widget. Now what this has done is that it has built a container on top of the body, but it is not visible at the moment because the container has covered the whole body of this scaffold. So to make it visually representable and just to distinguish it from the rest of the body, let us add some color to it. So to do that, we will give the color parameter, and let's say we set the color to be light blue. Light blue should look good. So yeah, we use light blue. We perform a hot reload, and as you can see now that the container has colored itself to be light blue. Now since the container is completely over the body, so you can see that the whole body has turned into light blue. We can also resize this container just to cut it down a bit. So we can give a width and a height parameter. So we will start with the width and give say 300, and we will give a height parameter for it. It should be 250. So now we perform a hot reload again. And as you can see, the container has reduced to the mentioned height and width, and now it is distinguishable from the body also. Now what we can do with this container is that we can now move it to the center of the body as well. Now to do that, we will use the center widget. But to use the center widget, we have to pass the container as a child to the center widget. So we put center with the body and we put child inside center, and we give it a hot reload. And as you can see, the container has moved to the center of the body. This looks pretty good, but I'm thinking, why don't we add a border to it as well? By adding a border, we can also demonstrate the decoration property that can be used on this container. So we say decoration and we say box decoration. Now there is a catch here. Inside this box decoration, we can give the color of the box that we are supposed to decorate, which is the container box right here. But for that, we cannot explicitly mention the colors segment before the decoration. So what we do is that we move the colors line inside the box decoration, and we will now add a border to it. So we say border, and we say border all. We say border all because we have to cover all four sides of the square with the border, and we give it a width of 1.0. Yeah. Now we make a hot reload, and I don't know if it is visible to you, but there is a slight black border next to the screen around the box. Why don't we make it more visible and change the width of this border? So we can set this width to any value that we want. So let's say we set it to 2. Now we make another hot reload, and as you can see now, the border has become thicker and it is pretty much visible next to the screen now. Now the border that we have created is black in color. That's the default color for a border, but we can change its color whenever we want. Now the fun thing about this border is that we can make it circular as well. So to do that, we use border radius, and we say border radius dot circular, and inside radius we type the radius that we have to give. Now when we perform a hot reload, you can see that the corners of the border has rounded, and that is proof that we have successfully applied the circular property to it. Now, there are a lot of different properties that you can see here. All of these properties are properties that you can apply to a particular container or any container that you want. But for now, let's add a child to it. So we add a child. Now, it is important to understand that every container can contain one and only one child. So for the sake of simplicity, let's add some text into it. So we add text, and we say hello Flutter. And now when we perform a hot reload, you can see that some text has appeared. Well, it is hello Flutter, but it's really small for us to read. So let us stylize this text a bit and increase the size of it. So we say style, and we say text style. Inside the text style, we mention the font size. Let's keep it 25. And let us also make it bold, right, when we're doing it. So we say font weight. We said font weight, and we say bold. So now when we perform a hot reload, you can see that the size of the text has increased. It is more readable now, and it is bold. Now, from before, we already know that we can use the center widget to make this text appear in the center of the container. But what if we don't want it to be in the center, but we want it to be in a particular place anywhere in the container? So for that flexibility, we have a property which is called alignment. This property is going to align the child of the container, but not the container itself. So if there is no child in the container, the property won't really work. You won't see a difference in the property. So let us use the alignment property now. So we say alignment. So for now we say 0.0 and 0.0. So what this is going to do is going to align this text into the center of the screen. Now it can be quite difficult to understand how the alignment is, so we have a small diagram which would help you do it, understand this one particular thing. So right here is 0.0 and 0.0. So this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis, basic geometry. So let's say you want to put the text into the top right corner. So the values that you would use would be 1.0 and 1.0. Similarly, if it's the left bottom corner, it's -1.0 and -1.0, and so on and so forth. Now let us look at one last concept. So how do we expand the container to cover the screen? Let's say we need our container to fill the screen whether in height or in width. So how do we do that? For that, we don't need to mention height and width explicitly, but we use something called constraints. And in constraints, we use box constraints.expand. And now it is important to note that whatever we mention inside expand would not change, but the other property would be expanded. So let's say if we mention width, and we mention the width to be 300.0, and we perform a hot reload, you can see that the container has expanded in height and not in width. So similarly, if you mention height in place of width, the container would expand in width and not in height.